All right, welcome to this month's podcast. It's a little bit different than normal. I'm in location in Bahia, where all the power has gone out on the island except for one cafe. I apologize up front about the background noise. I will be muting myself as much as possible as our focus is on Marcelo and his stories and his ideas about what's going on in the world of beach soccer. Marcelo is a former coach for the Portuguese national team, Uruguay, Thailand, United Arab Emirates, Japan, South Africa, Qatar, and even was an assistant coach with the US, to name a few. He's a lifer per se in regards to beach soccer, has a history of coaching with Flamengo and Sao Paulo and other organizations in Brazil, and is currently a Conaball beach soccer instructor, as well as recently was recently coaching the Ryukyu, probably destroyed that, in Okinawa, and having also been prolific in the Japanese national team. So Marcelo, I want to welcome you. Thank you for joining us this month. And how are you doing today?
Thank you for inviting me for the podcast. I'm good. I'm fine. I'm in Brazil now after 6 months in Japan, coaching the FC Ryukyu. As you said, in Okinawa. I'm fine.
Fantastic. So we're going to go through a few different subjects that we've already talked about, but I wanted to kind of get right into your transition from being a grass coach, and how beach was not really the plan per se to go as much as you have, but like what happened, and what was that time period like? Because I know that it was towards the end of your period at Flamengo. Could you tell us a little bit more about that experience?
Yeah, so I started when I was in university. I started to work in a soccer women team, the university women team. And then after 1 year, this team became like the university made a partnership with Flamengo, and I started to work there as an assistant coach. So we had a great time. After that, I work in 2 second division clubs here in Brazil. And I opened in 1996 my academy, my first academy, beach soccer academy here in Rio. And I had one teacher in a university, Lucia Reis. And that time she was working in Tavares in the beach soccer tournaments here in Brazil. And she invited me to work in these tournaments in the technical department. So I used to make the scout for the tournament. And after that, I started also in 96. So, but I was surprised when in 1999, I was invited to coach the Portuguese national team. It was a big, let's say, big jump, big surprise, and a huge step over that I did in 1999.
Can you tell us a little bit about that? I mean, I believe it had something to do with a beer in Leblon right after training on the beach, and could you kind of describe that? Because you were telling me that you were surprised by the opportunity because you didn't really have the experience. So could you kind of let people know a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. I didn't have that time enough experience with professional players, and but I had about 3 years and a half working in beach soccer and studying and being in tournaments, watching good players and big players. And so the story is I was in Leblon after the beach with Lucia and her mobile like ring, and the manager, one of the managers in Coque Tavares in São Paulo, he asked her about one name to coach the Portuguese national team, and she just looked at me and say, "Do you want to be the Portuguese national team coach?" And I was surprised, and I said, "Yes, why not?" And she said, "Okay, he's available, he can go." And then it was took like 1 month process to find contract and everything, but it was interesting story.
No, that's great. And so you went thinking you were going to go for 3 months, and then, or 6 months, and it became 3 years, or how long were you in, or 6 months, I guess. You had a short time period that you were thinking of being there, but you ended up extending it due to the experience.
Yeah, my contract was 3 months, and in the end of the second month, they proposed to me to extend for 1 year, and but in total, I was there 2 years, 2 years in Portugal, yeah, where we won the one European league.
Oh, that's great. Great. And so you mentioned Coach Tavares. I mean, for any of us in the beach soccer world, we know they were sort of the beginnings of international play. They obviously did the first international tournament in Miami Beach, which is, can be found on any Wikipedia look or what you have. But being the company that sort of parented or really started the international game, did it have much benefit for Brazil, not only for their national team, but how was it for the national team comparatively to like domestic growth and development, in regards to what you saw being kind of on the front line?
We had huge investment for the national team. We had the players had like a contract, year contract. So, but not all, like the top 5 or 6 players. I'm talking about after Junior, Edinho generation. I'm talking about the second generation, Junior Negão, Jorginho, Neném, so Robertinho, goalkeeper. So this generation, they had like a year contract, but I think, and we had a big media support. So all events live on the TV, open TV, not cable TV. So we had a huge support that time, and I think we miss a development project that time. So because we could have more, and maybe if we had this today, we could be in another level, another step in terms of development.
So that being the case, and basically in a way losing time with all that investment going into the national team, it obviously produced results in regards to Brazil winning more World Cups and World Championships than anyone. But how is that now translating to the experience of clubs and teams in Brazil now? Um, have they been able to develop in the way that they should, with that with sort of a lack of funds and direction?
Yeah. So that time, the company, they run one tournament here. It was like states or like regional tournaments, and but that's it. So no clubs involved at that time. So I don't remember yet how many years ago we started, but I remember in 2000 or 2001, we had the first Rio de Janeiro championship. And then we had Vasco da Gama, we had Fluminense, we had Flamengo. So that was the first step. But here in Brazil, we don't have like a sequence. We make things and we don't move for the next step. So then we had a big gap, and now more international tournaments, I think the clubs here in Brazil, they started to develop not only the men's, but also the women teams. But to have sponsors and players paid, we need competition. So the sponsors, they need to go somewhere. So we still need more competitions. We cannot say nothing about the last year where the Brazilian Federation, they proposed one big calendar last year, but the COVID-19 stopped everything. So let's see next year. I think this year we're gonna have few competitions, but next year we need to move forward.
Yeah, I think that's sort of par for the course everywhere, because I know that you had mentioned, investment by Conobol in the women's game, and then, COVID basically stopped everything. And obviously Brazil is dealing with COVID in a very difficult time, not going into obviously any of the politics of anything, but obviously COVID's been hitting Brazil heavily. So I'm sure Brazil and the rest of Latin America is waiting for the day where you guys can kind of see the light at the end of the tunnel in regards to dealing with this, so that things can find some normalcy. I want to kind of pivot a little bit and kind of go into some of the experiences you had as a coach. You had a time in the first Mundialito, you had the opportunity to coach a American team, and it was the Seattle Sounders, and that was for the first Mundialito. And I was wondering, could you kind of tell me and explain to everyone sort of like what the idea was with the Mundialito and with the Sounders team? You mentioned there was a draft, and kind of explain what that was.
The idea was to have a draft. Each coach from each club could choose the players, but with some rules. Like, for example, Seattle Sounders, the club is from US, so we must have four local players, and then we had to choose players from CONCACAF to complete the team. And after that, we had the chance to choose players from Europe, from Brazil, international players. But it was nice because, in my opinion, today we have some competitions where the team is from one country and they have 10 Brazilian players, and so the local players, they have no chance to play. So the idea in the first Mundialito was to give a chance for the local players to the national players to play. So, and I was happy with that.
And you had the chance of coaching a few of the storied American players. That includes, the two that actually, there was Toff, our current U.S. goalkeeper, who was very young at the time, and then two of our best players that ever stepped on the sand for us in Francis Farberoff and Yuri Morales. I was wondering, could you kind of give us, and we'll get to another player that I'm sure that you'd like to share about, who plays for the Japanese national team now, but could you tell me a little bit about Francis and Yuri and your experience coaching these two sort of honestly legends of our U.S. national team?
Yuri, I was really not surprised because I knew him when I picked him in the draft. I knew his potential, but I just said it is amazing because today everyone knows how to make a bicycle kick. And Yuri, I don't know how many years ago, he was able to do it many times and he scored many goals by bicycle kick. So it was a really, really good experience for me to work with the American guys. I knew Ozo since he had 17 years old, and I was the coach to pick him from one academy in Copacabana. and I took him to São Paulo national team. Oh, sorry, to São Paulo team, and there we won two Brazilian championships together. So after that, he moved to Germany, and after that he moved to Japan, and nobody listened about him anymore. So when we had the draft for the first Mundialito, I remember that guy, and I said I will try to find him. Where is him? And then when I chose him to Seattle Sounders, so everybody was asking like Ozo, who is Ozo Moreira? Nobody knows who is Ozo Moreira.
I was wondering, do you think it's going to be a problem? I know that you mentioned it with the 4-second rule now of goalkeepers. It's not just in the box, but it's anytime they have the ball. Do you think that the two CONCACAF teams, since they actually qualified under the old rules, in your opinion, do you think they're going to be able to make that transition this quickly, where it really is going to take the goalkeepers even that much more skill level to contribute in the way that they have before?
No, I think the Francis and Coach Gallo from El Salvador, they still have time. They for sure they are already training the new rules, and the goalkeepers, they will get it fast.
Well, let's pivot a little bit, because I could talk about Francis and Yuri and all of our U.S. players, and I apologize to any El Salvador fans out there. I'm a big fan of Frank and the rest of the team. I don't know what the mental slip is that I named the wrong country. I'll pay for that later. But I wanted to pivot towards the women. When you came back from Japan, you took a position for a while as the director of the Brazilian women's national team. And I wanted to kind of ask you what your impression of the women's game is, both in Brazil and where do you think it's going, and what needs to happen for the women's game to reach the level where they have their own World Cup. We know that teams are going to be playing at the World Cup for the first time for national teams. But what needs to happen, and what do you see across the world in regards to the women's game right now?
So, but we had a big gap when beach soccer starts and when FIFA came to the game. So when FIFA decided to make the first Women World Cup, I think everything will change, and the federations will take care more about the women game also.
How was the tournament in Dubai? I know that we didn't really discuss that, but that was like sort of the first Olympic level type, through Anok Beach Games. So it was sponsored by the International Olympic Committee. What was your impression in having been there as part of that event on the women's side?
It was an amazing experience for everyone, I'm sure.
Fantastic. Yeah, I mean, I figured as much. I know that the U.S. women that play with our NorCal Beach Soccer Club women's team, they joined us for the World Winners' Cup right after in Turkey, and they were so excited about the experience, being able to represent their country. I'm really happy that I had a hand in helping them sort of open the door and getting a head start from my meeting with Juan Cusco in 2017. I went looking for those players that would fill that national team once we had it. And we were able to get 3 from our area and a couple from Southern California. And I'm real excited about seeing the future of the women's game, especially from the US and obviously worldwide, grow and continue to kind of go in the right direction. To finish up today, there's going to be a lot of editing, I'm sure, on this podcast. But I wanted to kind of talk to you about your beach soccer academy. Um, your academy is located in Rio de Janeiro, correct?
Yes, in Leblon
Oh, in Leblon, where it
Beach
all
in Rio
started
de
with
Janeiro.
Portugal.
Yes.
That's great. So with your academy in Leblon, what are you doing with it these days?
Yeah, we have kids, of course, from different age groups, and we have also in the morning a training for women, and we have different ages also, but most of the players, they are over 80, and they like to play soccer and they like to play on the sand, open space, Leblon Beach. So it's nice.
Well, yeah, Leblon is pretty nice as areas go in Rio de Janeiro. I mean, there's not much better. I was wondering because I know that you and I had spoken about a possibility of sort of an experience for international youth to come and sort of get the trifecta, let's say, of Brazilian skill and culture in regards to, I guess it was like 2 weeks or 10 days where you would come and you would play beach soccer, futsal, and grass. Am I correct in saying that? Could you tell us a little bit more about this opportunity that you're creating and when it might take place?
When I was in Okinawa, so I was coaching also one soccer academy where all the players were American. So it was inside one American base. So the idea is to make one camp here in Rio de Janeiro, but not only beach soccer. I want to bring the American players, to come to Rio to play beach soccer and to have the experience also to play futsal and soccer with the Brazilian players together, and then to find the difference, to realize different techniques, to get some improvements in terms of tactics and techniques, but playing with the Brazilian girls. So that's the plan. So 3 modalities of soccer together in the same camp, and some days on the beach, some days indoor, some days on the grass.
Well, that sounds like an amazing opportunity. I can tell you that I'll definitely be back in touch with you to find out more details about when it will be taking place, so that we can offer it to our followers and the people that play in our tournaments. I have a few teams in mind right now that I think would really love to have that experience. So we'll definitely cross that road and make sure that people know about it, and see if we can help fill in some experiences of life along the way there. I think we're going to finish up right now. There's going to be an editing job, as I mentioned. But Marcelo, I really want to thank you for taking the opportunity and the time, especially in the difficulties that we had in getting this done today. And, I look forward to crossing paths with you again. As people may not know, first time we met as this motorcycle comes running by was in Japan. And when you were coaching the Japanese national team, and you showed me wonderful hospitality and and introduced me to some new ideas about things to do there that hopefully I'll be able to take advantage of in the future. But thank you so much for your time. And I hope to be able to see you soon. Obviously, we're both in Brazil right now, but right now I'm in Bahia. I'll be back in BH. I don't think I'll be making it to Rio, but I'm sure we'll see each other sooner than later. So
I'm sure about that.
well,
Because just because we love beach soccer, we both love beach soccer. So we're gonna meet somewhere for sure.
oh, without a
And
doubt.
I want to thank you. And I want to thank you very much for the invitation, talking about beach soccer and women's soccer and development. So I love to talk about these topics. So thank you very much, and I hope the people enjoy when they hear us.
I think if I do a good editing job, we'll be okay. Just so people know, like, just to finish up, we started this conversation with me running the Wi-Fi through my sister-in-law's phone with my phone as a flashlight on my face, in a town that's basically in a blackout except for this cafe that I ended up at with all this loud noise in the background. So I thank everybody that made it through this, and having watched it. And again, Marcelo, thank you so much, and we'll see. I think that's a great
Thank
way
you
to
very
end
much.
it. All right. I'm going to stop this recording right now before I go crazy.